For a long time now, stamina healing was just a meme in the ESO community. However, with the introduction of scribing right around a year ago, creating a fun stamina healer build isn't quite as far-fetched as it used to be. My name's Doc, your host for all things healing, and in this video I'll be bringing you guys the highly requested stamina healer build. Let's get into this. So, with pretty much every good healing skill in the game being a magicka skill, we had to get creative for this build. This build pretty much just revolves around trying to change our healing skills to be primarily focused on stamina while also attempting to maintain as many important buffs as humanly possible. With scribing being so prevalent in this build, and since I decided to make this build without using any class skills, it offers you a lot of flexibility for different kinds of content. While I probably wouldn't take this build into an HM dungeon or a vet trial, I think it's overall a pretty solid build that will definitely work in just a regular vet dungeon or a normal trial setting. If you're maybe a stamina DPS or a tank that wants to try out healing, I think this build will be perfect for you. And as always, let's start by talking about our race and class. So for our race, I'm going to suggest the Red Guard. Their increased stamina and stamina recovery will be really useful for this build, and while we aren't using a whole lot of weapon skills, our main spammable will be a weapon skill, so that 8% reduction will be really helpful. For our class, it honestly really does not matter at all. While the gameplay you're seeing here is from my Templar, I did make this build without using any class skills specifically so that you can run this build on literally any class. For our attributes, I put all 64 into stamina, and for our Mundus, I'm running the Ritual. This build has a lot of heal over time skills and long-lasting buffs, meaning your actions per minute will be a bit lower than a traditional healing build. This should leave you plenty of time to get some heavy attacks in and maintain your stamina without having to dedicate your Mundus to it. For our food, I use the Lava Foot Soup. It gives us a large increase to both our stamina and our stamina recovery. I don't have the recipe, but I was able to find a pretty large stack of these on a guild trader for just a couple thousand gold, so should not be that difficult to acquire. For our potions, I'm just using simple tri-restoration potions. You could use some heroism or power potions if you want, but I've got a ton of the tri-resto pots just sitting in my bank collecting dust, so I try to use them when I can. And now let's talk about champion points. These will be pretty much the same as all other healer builds that we've talked about on this channel, so they'll definitely sound familiar, but let's go over them. So starting with our blue champion point, starting off we have From the Brink. If you or a party member happens to fall below 25% health, this little perk will grant them a huge damage shield when you heal them. This can be great for a clutch save if someone is about to go down. Next we have Soothing Tide. This will increase the amount of healing that our AoE heals do. Since a few of our spammables are AoE heals, this will be great for keeping our teammates alive. Next is Swift Renewal. This will increase the amount of healing that our heal over time effects do. Much like our AoE heal with Soothing Tide, we'll have a couple hots up at pretty much all times. And finally, Enlivening Overflow. Overhealing someone will grant them some extra recovery. Since we probably aren't going to be able to give our teammates intellect and endurance with this build, this is the next best way of giving our teammates a little boost to their resources. And on to the red champion point. So starting out, we have Boundless Vitality. This will give us a little boost to our survivability by giving us some extra health. If you happen to be running a Warden, this is even better since remember that Wardens have minor toughness, which increases their max health from literally all sources of healing. So that'll be great if you happen to have that. Next is Fortified, another little boost to our survivability by giving us some extra armor. Never hurts to be a little harder to take down. Number 3 is Rejuvenation. This gives us some extra magicka, stamina, and health recovery. While sustain won't be too much of an issue with this build, I still think that little extra bonus is nice. And finally, we have our Flex Spot. It just depends on what kind of content you're doing and your own personal preference. Some good choices that I typically see include Celerity, Slippery, Expert Evasion, and Spirit Mastery. And next, let's talk about skills. Like I mentioned previously, this build does not use any class skills so that every class has equal access to it. If you want to trade out a couple of these skills for some class skills, you are absolutely welcome to do that. So, what skills will we be using? Well, starting on our front bar greatsword, we have Healing Torch. This Scribed Fighters Guild skill is a solid burst heal, but I've crafted the skill to also be our cleanse as well as granting our allies minor heroism. It can be a bit expensive, so I would try to only use it every 20 seconds or so when minor heroism runs out, but even then this is still a very good uh-oh button that we can use for heal checks. Next is Healing Smash, our main spammable and our source of minor berserk. This scribed two-handed skill essentially acts as combat prayer minus the defensive buff. It's an AoE burst heal that also applies a small heal over time and minor berserk, which will give our allies 5% extra damage. Next is Echoing Vigor, a classic healing skill. This assault skill will be our sticky heal over time, and it will also be crucial for activating one of the sets in our build. Next is Energy Orb. I figured we should probably have at least one Magicka skill on here so that our Magicka bar isn't just sitting there doing nothing. This Undaunted skill will give us some solid AoE healing, but most importantly, the synergy will restore resources to our team. Next up, we have Restorative Banner. A scribe skill found in the support skill line, it will essentially act as a permanent AoE heal as well as giving our teammates ability cost reduction and minor courage, which will give them a nice little bump to their weapon and spell damage. For our first ultimate, we have the Dawnbreaker of Smiting, or really just any Dawnbreaker that you want. This Fighters Guild ultimate is one that we will likely never cast. The main reason we have it is for the boost to our healing. The Slayer passive in the Fighters Guild skill line will give us a 3% boost to weapon and spell damage. It may not seem like much, but this skill, on top of Healing Torch, will give us a pretty big boost to our overall healing. Now onto our back bar bow, and starting we have Bone Surge, a nice little stamina-based shield found in the Undaunted skill line. The main reason we're using it though is for its synergy, which will grant major vitality to our allies, giving them a 12% increase to their healing and damage shields received. Next is Healing Vault, our secondary spammable and source of minor expedition. This scribed bow skill is a great tool for getting you and your team out of a sticky situation. Not only does it give a nice little burst of healing and a heal over time, it also causes you to leap backwards and grant minor expedition, which will increase your movement speed by 15%. Next is Ring of Preservation. This Fighters Guild skill is an excellent AoE heal with a few buffs. On top of healing, it also provides minor protection and minor endurance, reducing damage taken by 5% and increasing stamina recovery by 15% respectively. Next up, we've got Overflowing Altar, another classic healer skill. This Undaunted skill applies minor lifesteal to all enemies in a pretty large radius. As I'm sure many people know, the synergy also restores a massive amount of health to people who use it. And we, again, have Restorative Banner. You may be wondering why the skill is making a second appearance. That's because you have to double bar it so that it doesn't go away when swapping bars. Trust me though, it's a really good skill, it's totally worth it. And for our other ultimate, we have Aggressive Warhorn. Now this is the ultimate we'll actually be casting. This assault ultimate will grant our teammates increases to their max resources as well as a huge damage buff from Major Force, and it's important for one of the sets that we'll be talking about in just a minute. And speaking of sets, let's talk about those now. For our body pieces, or in other words, our chest, hands, legs, belt, and shoes, we'll want Powerful Assault, which will give our allies a unique damage buff upon casting an assault ability, or in this case, Echoing Vigor. You probably recognize this set if you've been around the channel for a little while. Ordinarily, we would be running this in our back bar spot, but because all of these armor pieces are medium in weight, they're perfect for stamina builds. It can be purchased via Telvar stones in the Imperial City or from guild traders via gold. The nice thing about having PA on the body is that the body pieces are very cheap on guild traders, so this should be pretty easy to acquire. For traits, we'll be using Divines. I always like to mention it as well, though, that I also enjoy using the Infuse trait on the big armor pieces, meaning the chest, legs, and head. Finally, our enchantments will be all max stamina. Moving on to our weapons and jewelry, we'll want War Machine. Some of the earliest ESO trials did a great job at making similar sets in both stamina and magicka variants. War Machine, found in the Halls of Fabrication trial, will give our teammates Major Slayer upon casting our ult, which will make them do 10% extra damage to group content monsters. If that sounds familiar, it's because it's nearly identical to Master Architect, which is a set that's also appeared frequently on the channel. So you may be wondering, what's the difference? Why War Machine over Master Architect? Well, where Master Architect focuses on Magicka, War Machine focuses on stamina, making it a perfect replacement for a stam healer build. For the Great Sword and Bow, we're going to be using the Powered trait and the Absorb Stamina enchantments. For our jewelry traits, we'll be using Robust, and for the enchantments, we'll be using a combination of weapon power and stamina recovery. I'd recommend trying to prioritize weapon power over recovery, but if you do feel like you need the sustain, there's nothing wrong with prioritizing recovery as well. Next, let's talk about our monster set, and we will be using the classic Ozazen the Inferno. The headpiece can be found in Vet Scrivener's Hall, and the shoulders can be purchased in the Undaunted Enclave. This set will give our team some extra armor when being overhealed, and minor vitality when being healed, which will increase the amount of healing and damage shields received. It's a solid defensive set that's been a staple monster set on the channel for a while. For the weight, I recommend a light shoulders and a heavy head. This will give us the full benefit of the Undaunted passive skills, increasing our resources by a good bit. The trait will be Divines, and again, you have the option of using Infused on the headpiece instead, with the enchantments all being max stamina. Finally, this is where I would normally talk about an arena weapon or a mythic item, but I don't have one. I had some options to choose from, but none of them really seemed to work. The arena weapons required specific skills that I wasn't going to use, so those were out. I also thought about mythics that healers often use. I could use Spalder, but I'd lose out on my monster set. I could use Pearls of Elnafay, but it just didn't feel necessary when the rest of our build isn't really catered for that style of play. I even thought about just maybe using 1 or 2 pieces of the trainee set, but in the end, I decided just to keep the 5-piece War Machine because the extra weapon and spell damage seemed to be more important than extra magicka and health that we probably don't need. I'm sure someone out there will be able to figure out a good mythic or arena weapon that could optimize this build better than I could, so if you do, let me know down in the comments. And I think that does it. Doc Stamina Healer build. Remember that while stamina builds may not be the strongest, they can certainly be fun, and it can be a unique way to try something new when it comes to healing. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. Let me know what you think of the build and if there's anything you would change about it. I've got plenty more healer builds and tips, both already on my channel and upcoming, so make sure to stick around so you don't miss those. Don't forget to check out the link in the description so you can follow me on stuff and join my Discord server. I'd also like to take a moment to thank my Patreon members Dylan Stewart and Sharni Lee, as well as my YouTube member Austin Anderson. Thank you guys for your continued support, and y'all are amazing. Finally, I think all I've got left to say is that I've been Doc. Take care of yourselves, be good to others, don't forget to take your vitamins, and I will catch y'all in the next one.